Alright, hi guys, welcome back to PKFX YouTube trading channel. So this will be our usual weekend game plan. Today is pretty much Saturday and the market is closed, and I've shortlisted my top pairs for the upcoming few days once the market opens. So as usual, we'll walk through one by one and we will look at the higher time frames of weekly, daily and 4 hour to see whether it's bullish or bearish and see what is the expected direction of the market. So I'll start off with AUDCAD for the top down analysis. So this is a trade that I entered and currently it is in a small losses. Still holding on to this particular trade, but very quickly this trade, the weekly is basically a sell, this being the lower low, this being the lower high. So weekly is a sell, and if I look at daily also, the daily is a sell, and the 4 hour currently is still a sell. So the last engulfing pattern over here, this engulfing strong engulfing candle formed that particular strong sell pattern. The market has been ranging so far. It has not broken above to change it into a buy. So because the weekly and daily and the 4 hour is a sell, I still hold on to this particular trade despite the fact that it has already moved above my area of interest and has bounced from the top. I decided to continue to hold the trade and commit to the trade, and let's see what happens next. I'm hoping for the market to somehow reverse back towards the down direction, but it can easily also hit my stop loss. But I'm going to continue to hold this particular trade to follow the trend. Next is EUROAUD. So EUROAUD, if I look at this particular pair, the weekly is a sell, this being the lower low, and over here being the lower high. So I've already marked the weekly lower low and lower high. So weekly is a sell, and the last few weeks I noticed that it has made a beautiful curvature over here and broken below this particular box over here, and has closed the week down here. So my expectation is for a continuation towards the downside following the weekly sell. If I look at daily, this being the higher high and this being the higher low, so I'm aware that the daily is a buy and it is right at the daily EME. This can easily act as a support and it can easily move towards the upside, hitting the stop loss as well. So before I enter this particular trade, I need to see some confirmation from the market. It has already broken below this particular zone. I think that it may just come back again to retest this particular previous structure points over here, and then if I see a curvature and a move towards the downside again, then that would be a good entry point. If it's going to drop straight from here onwards, then I'm probably not going to chase this particular trade, but any pullback and a reversal back towards the downside, that will be a good indication to go for a sell to follow the trend for the weekly sell. That is EUROAUD. Moving on to AUDUSD. So AUDUSD, if I look at the weekly basis, the weekly is a buy, this being the higher high and this being the higher low. So technically weekly is a buy. And if I look at daily is a sell, this being the lower low, and if I follow the trend, this is the lower high, right? And the market has been making some sort of a progress towards the upside. I'm sorry, daily is a sell. Yeah, daily is a sell, but weekly is a buy, right? So weekly is a buy. Now if I go to the 4 hour, the 4 hour right now is also a buy. So any sort of a pullback, I would probably consider to buy to follow the weekly buy trend. So that's my plan over here. It may happen very quickly, but I can see that I can get a 1 to 2 risk to reward. Ideally, you want to have a good stop loss below this particular box over here, but if I do that, I'm not going to get my 1 to 2 risk to reward. So this may be a tricky trade, but if it comes back and the 4 hour EME also goes towards the upside, and if it's going to curve and hold and reject the 4 hour EME, then there may just be an opportunity for a quick buy for AUDUSD. This is what I'm looking at. I'll move to the next particular pair, which is EUROUSD. Now, EUROUSD weekly is a sell, this being the lower low, this being the lower high, and daily is also a sell, this being the lower low and this being the lower high. And if I look at the 4 hour, technically this was the lower low and this was the lower high, and ever since then the market has only been ranging all the way. It has not broken above this 4 hour trend line. So I would say that it is still a sell. So weekly sell, daily sell, 4 hour sell. My first thought process is to sell. In fact, right now I can even choose to sell from here and have a good 1 to 3 risk to reward. But the market can always pull back up to come back to this particular area. If I go to the daily candlestick pattern, can see very clearly that the daily EMA is rallying towards the downside. So if the market choose to go back and retest the EMA and then reject from here, this will be another place where you can enter for a potential buy, 1 to 2 risk to reward, and you get out over here. Or if the market is dumping towards the downside, then any sort of a pullback you can consider to also sell. Both of it is a sell. Whether we want to sell from here immediately or we want to wait for a pullback and sell will depend, right? So weekly sell, daily sell, 4-hour sell, Euro USD, I'm looking for a sell. Now next is USDCHF. USDCHF, if I look at this particular pair, the market has rallied towards the upside. Weekly is a buy. It made a pullback and it's bouncing off the weekly EMA. Looks like this is a very beautiful trend. It has its shoulder, head, and shoulder that broke this particular structure point, right? This is a beautiful inverse head and shoulder in this case, and it retested the neckline and it's bouncing off. So ideally, I expect this particular trade to rally towards the upside following the weekly buy trend. And if I look at daily, it's also a buy with a little bit of a pullback, and the 4-hour is technically right now is also a buy. It came back to retest this zone and now it's rallying towards the upside. So I have two options over here. Either I choose to enter right now and go for the continuation buy trend, or I wait for the market to break above this zone and then on a comeback and a retest, right, I continue. If I see a curvature and the 4-hour EMA also rallying towards the upside, then I can wait for that further confirmation before I enter for a buy. But overall, USDCHF, I see a beautiful buy has aligned. So let's see what the market does once the market opens. Moving on is EURGBP. So if I go to the weekly EURGBP, it had a very beautiful break towards the downside. I was actually hoping for the market to make some sort of a pullback before I can sell. However, the market did not give me any sort of pullback and it continued to break this particular zone as well, and it keeps breaking down and most probably it's going to continue to rally downwards. Now this is a bit risky because I can see that I'm selling at the lowermost point. Ideally is to wait for it to pull back and then have some sort of a curvature here, to come back and have a curvature here before we go for a sell. But I really don't know if something like this is going to happen or market is just going to drop back down. So the weekly technically is a sell. If I look at daily, also is a sell at its lowest point. And if I go to 4-hour, yeah, it is also a sell, this being the lower low and over here being the lower high. Now, why did I mark an entry point over here is because if I go to the 30 minutes candlestick, I can see that the market pretty much made its lower low and then it kind of shifted back over here. If I were to zoom in a bit nicely over here, so you can see that this was the previous structure point, and when the market broke over here, technically the sell became a buy. That was the shift of structure. So this became the higher high and this became the higher low, the 30 minutes line that eventually got broken again, shifting the structure back to a sell. So I see this as a potential continuation towards the downside as a sell, understanding that at a 4-hour, at a daily, and also at a weekly, we are pretty much selling at a low point in an expectation that the market is going to continue to fall towards the downside. So it's a little risky because at any point of time, the market can make that pullback, but I really don't know if it's going to give us the pullback or not. So yeah, EURGBP is a sell. Moving on to CADJPY on a weekly, if I go to CADJPY, now this particular pair, I would say the weekly is a sell. So the weekly gave me some sort of a pullback, came back, had a strong wick over here in this particular zone. So I can look for a potential sell. The daily is a buy. So the daily right now, if I were to adjust this nicely, yeah, the daily actually at this point of time became a sell, but it rallied back towards the upside, changing the structure of a daily from a sell into a buy. rejecting from the EMA, dumping below over here, right, and closing below this particular box. This is indicating to me that a continuation towards the downside is bound to happen as per the arrow that I drew. That is essentially what I believe is playing out. The market, I wanted it to come back and retest and then push back down. It did that, it came back, pretty much retested and pushed back down and even closed the weekly, daily, 4-hour candles, everything down, right? So ideally, I would want to sell this particular candle. If I look at the 4-hour, this is the lower low, this is the lower high, came back again to retest my zone and now pushing towards the downside. So this could be an immediate sell as well. We'll see how the market opens, but CADJPY, I am looking for a sell to follow the trend. AUDJPY is also a sell, pretty similar. In this case, I would say this is the lower low and this is the lower high. So weekly is technically a sell. Came back over here to this daily resistance zone, this box over here. If I look at the daily candlestick pattern, this being the lower low, this being the lower high, so technically daily is a sell. It did come back up, retested the EMA multiple times, had a beautiful doji indecision candle and pushed back towards the downside. So this is also another curvature that is confirming to me that it's going to rally towards the downside following the weekly sell and daily sell. If I look at the 4-hour, but technically the 4-hour is a buy, this being the higher high and this being the higher low. So I cannot wait for the 4-hour to turn into a sell because the line over here is way down here and all I'm expecting is a good 1 to 2 risk to reward. Now if I choose to enter this particular trade for a sell, I understand that my stop loss is technically not in a position where if it hits, I'm completely wrong, because ideally to be completely wrong, the stop loss has to be something like this above here. And to get that, maybe I need the market to make hell of a pullback, something like this as well. So really depends on our risk appetite. That would be a more ideal trade to take, but I don't know if the market is going to give me that. So we will see how the market opens for AUDJPY. The trick about this JPY pairs, every time I look at a potential sell, the market tends to rally towards the upside. JPY pairs, the JPY, Japanese yen, keeps getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and the market keeps pushing towards the upside. But if I really were to follow the market structure, if I'm already having weekly as a sell and daily as a sell, the logical thing to do is to follow the trend. So I'm going to stick with that. And finally, one other pair, NZDCAD. NZDCAD, let me see, New Zealand dollar. If I go to the weekly, it's a bit choppy here. But weekly is a buy, this being the higher high, this being the higher low. Daily is also a buy. Daily is a sell, this being the lower low and this being the lower high. Technically, it has not broken this particular line. So right now, daily is still a sell. So I shouldn't mark it as a buy. I should definitely mark this as a sell. So let me just quickly change that. Daily is a sell. And if I go to 4-hour, well, 4-hour is a buy, right? 4-hour is a buy. So any sort of a pullback, if I get that, then it will be a good buy to follow the weekly buy trend. So that's what I'm looking at for this particular pairs. A quick look on gold. So gold weekly pretty much is a sell still. The weekly has been a sell, this being the lower low and this being the lower high. So weekly is a sell. Daily technically is still a sell, this being the lower low, this being the lower high. So I've drawn the line over here. Daily is still a sell. Any sort of push towards the upside, I would look for a potential sell because the weekly and the daily is a sell. 4-hour right now, but technically it is a buy, this being the higher high, this being the higher low. So 4-hour is a buy, and because the 4-hour is a buy, there is a chance for it to come to this particular zone. So I'm looking for a potential push towards the upside, and if that happens, and if it comes to 4,200 area, then that would be a good selling point in my opinion, because technically gold is still trending in this downside. I got to bear in mind that this particular wedge, this kind of falling wedge, eventually break towards the upside, right? So long-term goal is super bullish, but I believe gold still has another push towards the downside, something like this before eventually pushing towards the upside. This is what I am looking forward for the gold to do. And if that happens, great. If not, I wouldn't enter this trade. If it comes to 4,200 area, then I may consider for a sell for gold. So yeah, that's about it, guys. That's pretty much all the pairs that I'm looking at. So let's see how the market opens. All right. Thank you so much for your time and good luck, guys. Take care.